Hello everyone, very good day. Today we are going to discuss on domain name system, a system design concept. We will look into deep in the next slides. So we will discuss on the introduction to DNS. So in general, computers or any system or servers will be identified via an IP address. It is hard to remember n number of IP addresses. Suppose if we want to connect, we have to reach any systems or websites. We will not be able to remember the IP addresses. So IP addresses are hosted on a machine. So since we discussed like we cannot remember a lot of IP addresses, so we just need contacts or a phone book kind of storage where we can map the domain name into the its respective IP addresses. Suppose consider we have facebook.com or instagram.com or linkedin.com or google.com. We want to map those domain names to the IP addresses. So this is where DNS comes into picture, where we will type the domain name. Suppose if we type linkedin.com, the domain name servers or system will map its respective authoritative IP addresses so that our request goes into the respective systems. So this is a basic phone book, what we do in a day-to-day life. Suppose we are the caller as represented in a human blue icon, and we want to call a callie. Callie could be any callie represented in a yellow color human icon. We have a list of 100 contacts and we cannot remember all the 100 contacts phone number. We may be supposed to remember the dear ones which we usually call day in day out, but consider like we have 100 contacts and we want to randomly call a person, and how do we call? So we do not remember the number. We store the number into the respective name. Suppose we name a person person A and store the numbers. So person A, the contact name is the DNS domain name system and domain name, and its phone number we can relate it to a IP addresses. Suppose if a caller wants to call a callee, the caller will type the callee's name and search in the phone book and trigger the dial button. So it internally mapped to the phone number. So the phone number gets triggered and the call goes via the tele network, and we will be able to reach the callee. So the same concept applies to the domain name system. In the domain name system, to obtain an IP address, suppose a client types in a website, it could be any website, and a query will be triggered into the DNS system. So, and the DNS system will refer its records and map the domain name into the respective IP address and provides back the IP address, and this connects the client to the respective web system or a web server or a website. So what is DNS? DNS is an internet naming system. So that, like we discussed before, it maps the names to the IP addresses. So IP address can be machine read and the domain names can be human read. So DNS should be is always transparent to the users. When the user enters the domain name into the browser has to translate the domain name into the IP address by asking the DNS infrastructure. So once the desired IP address is obtained, the user request is forwarded to the respective web servers. So how it happens, and it happens to the ISP, Internet Service Provider. We all do have a router in our home connected to the wireless network. So that it could be any ISP service providers that takes care of reaching out to the DNS and gets back the IP addresses. It has its ISP has its own caching mechanisms, and and also if it gets the 10 IP addresses, it reorders when it sends to different users. It won't send the list in the same order. It will shuffle and send, because each user must will be trying the first IP address, and if not, it will retry to the second. So to not to target the same server, when the ISP takes care of getting the list of IP address for a particular domain name and shuffles it and sends it to the different users. So So like it discussed, so this is the pictorial representation or a flow diagram. So when a user hits a browser with any like google.com, so the browser will be reaching out to the ISP first. So the ISP, the nearest internet service provider, will forward the query to the DNS infrastructure. Suppose if we type google.com, we will get like list of 10 to 15 IP addresses. So those IP address list, ISB will send back. Suppose if 5 users are requesting, so it will be sending the same 10 IP addresses in a different ordering, so that each user will hit the first IP address, which is a different web server. So the request will be going to the different web servers, and the traffic will not be routed to the same native server of a domain name. So then the ISP service provider sends it to the browser, and the browser makes a HTTP or HTTPS request. It again goes via ISP and then reaches the HTTP request to the actual web service of Google. And these IP addresses, where the domain name is mapped in the DNS infrastructure, is not the actual IP addresses of Google. It is a non-authoritative IP addresses. We will get into what is non-authoritative IP address in detail in the further slides. So before we go in there, we should understand certain terminologies. So what is DNS hierarchy? So it involves all these components. DNS resolver is the first component. Resolver initiates it, and it is where the query enters and forwards the request to the other DNS servers. Suppose it consider the next level is the root level name servers. Root level name servers categorize the requests how we type. It could be www.google.com or gmail.com or gmail.in or gmail.uk. So these are the top level domain names. These are the root level domain names, and the top level domain names, these servers hold the IP address of authoritative name service. So they will get the list of IP address belong to the organization. So the authoritative name servers, organization's DNS name servers that provides the IP address of the web. So these authoritative name servers are the real application servers. Non-authoritative servers are the list of IPs or web servers hosted well before these set of clusters. So this is how the DNS hierarchy will look like in the root level, and in the top level, it is categorized into the .com or .in or .io, and authoritative servers or the actual servers of a particular domain names, actual application servers. Those IP addresses will be provided. So this we can write in our own system as well. So when we type you have to type ns lookup as space, and you have to type any website. It could be google.com, facebook.com, or linkedin.com. So when you type that, it will return the list of IP addresses. So we could see the list of IP addresses. Those are non-authoritative servers. So it is not the actual Google's application servers. It is a that is called authoritative, and the non-authoritative are the first level servers, which the IP addresses will be provided here, and it first reaches there, and from there it reaches to the actual application servers of Google or LinkedIn, or it could be any website. Thank you for patiently watching the video. Thank you once again. Please do follow our channel. This is our handle, Intrinsic Intelligence.